I gave it to you. It's all right. I'm just picking on you.
She's had a difficult day.
It's been a rough 10 days because the auditors are in, so. They're very needy and demanding.
Not only that, but
Yep.
That looks good. Yeah, going down that road too.
something important that they want to be here for? I didn't see anything on that side.
No? Which one? I know. I had unchecked, actually, I didn't send an email.
I stopped the alarm.
Oh, good.
Todd usually
Good.
waits for the alarm to go off, but I silenced it in time.
I'm just checking email real quick. I got nothing, so, I don't know.
Supposed to be any minute. Supposed to be here any minute.
Who?
I don't know, it's 7. Let's rock
It's
and
7.
roll.
Just waiting for my watch to catch up. Good evening. Today is Monday, November 18th, 2024. At 7 p.m. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting to order.
Linda Grappo.
Paul Marino?
Paul Harrington.
Tyler Shalashi,
Glenn Albanesius.
William Hester,
Candy Perez.
Selectman Pozo is excused, and Selectman Lemire will be here shortly. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Agenda review. Does anyone have anything? Any additions, corrections, subtractions? Moving on to item number 4, the approval of minutes of our regular meeting on November 4th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Bill. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Linda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? 401. 401. Moving on to item number 5, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening, folks. Cheryl McGlynn, 61 Wetmore. As you guys know, I also am a business owner in town and a member of WOW, Women of Business Owners of Winstead. There's a couple things I want to talk about. First, I want to update you on our efforts to try to help get speed cameras. We were applying for a grant through Main Street, Connecticut. We were turned down for that, but we're looking at other avenues. But I also want to address something I saw on your agenda today. My understanding is you're going to executive session today in regards to the sale of property owned by the town. That's not allowed under FOI. Specifically, you can go into executive session to discuss the purchase of property by the town, but only if it's going to impact the price of it. You are not allowed under the law to go into executive session for this discussion of the sale of the property. Your agenda also needs to be a lot more specific than it is. What properties are we talking about? How does people, the members of this community, know what you're referring to? How do they have the opportunity to come in and comment and have their voices heard? Your agendas need to be a lot more specific under FOI. But I specifically object to any executive session that does not follow the rules. Specifically, you can do it to discuss specific employees, strategy and negotiations regarding pending claims litigation, security managers, as I stated, real estate acquisition if open list might increase price, or any matter that would result in disclosure of public record accepted for the disclosure requirements of public records. What you're planning on going to executive session for today is illegal. You cannot do it. It could end up invalidating the vote that you will subsequently make. So I strongly urge that you do not vote in favor of executive session. So I'd also request, on behalf of the citizens of this community, that you be a little more specific in your agenda and in your minutes. I've read through some of the minutes. Apparently you have a practice of not feeling it's important to summarize citizen comments within your minutes, which most agencies do. And I'd ask you to do that. People shouldn't have to watch the whole recording in order to see what members of the community are saying to this body. So I'd ask that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hello, I'm Stephen Robertson. I live at 17 Hamel Drive, and I understand tonight you're going to take up amending clause 367 due to traffic congestion caused by commercial vehicles on city streets. And I want to submit these 3 photos, in particular on Hamel Drive. There's been a tractor-trailer truck parked, not every day. Whoever owns it, I'm sure, goes out on runs, but it's on a cul-de-sac, dead-end road, and it's kind of blocks the end of the street where you come into Hamel Drive, and doesn't allow for 2 cars to pass. There are also women with baby carriages, you know, strolling, and as you come up Holliburg to take a right into Hamel, it kind of, you know, makes that entryway a lot smaller than it should be. So I'd like to submit these photos so that you could review them when you're considering the amendment of this number 367.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott?
Right now. I don't think I have 3 minutes of stuff to say, but I would like to know what you guys know about the solar farm going in on Spencer Hill Road. I don't know, it's been through zoning, they're already working up there, they're working past the hours that they said that they were gonna do. They're disguising themselves as a vineyard. The fellow that had his feather buncher burn up there thought he was building a vineyard, and higher than me has tried to get information on this, and we've gotten no information at all. There was no yellow sign out there with for the zoning, for a P&Z meeting. There was nothing. We can't, all we can find online is that it's a vineyard, they call themselves. And they said that they put into the town and there was no response from the town as far as zoning or anything like that. So as Katie knows, I was on inland wetlands, and I know for a fact they're working on in wetlands. The swamp from Losar Road drains through that property, which goes down to the Gilbert property. Excuse me. They said they notified themselves because technically there's one lot that's not joined to the other one. They notified a house that was under foreclosure, so I guess those people didn't oppose. They notified a company that's on the other side, they're on North Main Street that abuts the property, but in the paperwork it does not say that they notified the Gilbert Trust, which I'm sure would be opposed. I frankly don't care what people do with their property. You can do what you want. You need to get permits. I've been through it just to get a shed on my property, and I'd really like to know if these people have, in fact, applied for all the permits they're supposed to. There was a recent article in the Waterbury Republican that was on the 9th of November. They've already started work up there. So solar farm, you're not gonna see it from my house, you're gonna see it from First Bay of Highland Lake. That's where you're gonna see all the solar panels. I mean, I run out of things, but I would like to know exactly what's going on. I know you've been contacted about it. No information has been given. It's not your fault, and some of you folks weren't on the board before this happened. And I don't blame anyone, but we really need to know what's going on. Rules need to be followed. You know, inland wetlands need to be followed. P&Z needs to be followed. If they follow all the rules and they build a solar farm up there, so be it. It is. But I would just like to get some answers on that. If we could find any way to do that. And Troy knows how to get a hold of me. Candy, you do. I've been,
Is that the one way up top where they've been cutting the trees, or is that?
that's
or is
the
that
picture
the
that
other
was on
one?
Facebook with the
Or is
big
that
black
the other
smoke.
one? Or is that the other one?
It's right across the street from my mom's house in Spencer.
It's, I think what you're talking about is where they've been clearing all of that land.
Yep.
If the board so wishes, I could answer some of the questions now. We could.
Go ahead.
It's up to, so, that was brought to my attention. Zoning enforcement officer has been up there repeated times. I'm just gonna tell you all we know, that they are claiming that but I can tell you, when it comes from where the town can enforce, that right now they have checked every box, pulled permits, they're not in the wetlands. Our zoning enforcement officer has been up there repeated times, and he can find no violation. There was one, they did not pull the original permit, they have since done that. So right now, all of the activity that's being done up there is permitted and is allowed, and they have checked all of the boxes that they need to.
Okay, but I appreciate that. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. It is, these people disguise themselves as Vineyard Sky Farms Corp. They are actually a solar company, if you look it up. That's what they do. And, my great-grandfather farmed that land, and so did my great-uncle and the rest of my family. And I know that they are in wetlands. It's dry, we're in the middle of a drought. But that swamp from Losa drains right through where they're working.
What was what was that last thing that you said? Just so I can write it down.
No, the swamp from Losa.
Okay.
On Losa Road, it goes underneath Spencer Hill, and it
Okay.
drains right through that property, and that goes down to Gilbert. And that's the creek that comes down through Gilbert and goes by Hinsdale School.
Okay. I want to look into that one particular part, and I should have mentioned, we did bring in the town attorney as well, have him looking at everything, and I can tell you that the attorney came back and said there were no violation.
Okay, fair enough. I grew up there. I grew up across the street from that. I know every rock, tree, stump up there. In fact, my family, I was up there cutting hay and everything. The little valley that goes between the big field and the field that's up on top that you can see from First Bay, that is where the creek flows through, and that's where they are in there cutting trees.
Okay. We'll get back up there for sure. I can tell you that when the pictures were sent to us, immediately we had zoning enforcement officer out there.
Okay.
I mean, it's glaring. I mean, you took this beautiful area and, now it's all open, so we had sent up, Mr. Green immediately up there, and, we obviously,
Okay.
where it
I
goes
know.
down the road,
I appreciate it.
but-
I just want to make the town aware because we could not get any information on it. And there was never any zoning change signs, the yellow signs, where there's a P and Z meeting and whatnot, and
Yeah, they're just pulling permits, and everything they're doing up there is permitted within that
Okay.
actual, zone.
I'll make you aware, it's
So,
gonna be a
yeah.
solar farm, and you're gonna see it from First Bay. That's what you're gonna look at, is big black solar panels. Thank you very much for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
One more. It was just brought to my attention that the item that I spoke about is not on the agenda tonight. Is that
That's the.
true, or is that?
So it was on last month's agenda, last meeting's agenda. We had brought it out. We had Mr. Green here. We had proposed some changes, and then the board felt at that time they wanted to make a couple of modifications to the actual ordinance. So we're going to bring it back in December. Mr. Green and I are still working through, and we want to bring in two of the selectmen that have some more vehicle knowledge as well to propose a good ordinance change. And I remember when you and I spoke in my office and the
Yes.
street you talked about, as you know, we got right on it, and I thought we were going to be able to, then found out that we don't have an ordinance that prohibited it. So we have to work through, we have to get an ordinance that, 7 members up here appreciate. There was some good debate at last meeting. So we want to come back and we'll get it done. But it's not on this agenda, so I apologize that you thought it was. It was on last Board of Selectmen meeting's agenda, and we're not back to the drawing board 100%, but we're fine tuning that ordinance for you, so.
Okay.
But this board was very responsive of
Yeah.
hearing your concerns and obviously having trucks in residential area and the hazards that they cause on, town streets.
Right.
In fact, one thing, I don't want to misspeak, but I thought the board was pretty unanimous that said, definitely no tractor trailers on any Winchester road. So now we just want to fine tune, private properties, all of that. So we do it, we'll do it once, get it all straightened out. But this board, I believe, was fully unanimous in that no overnight parking of tractor trailers that you're seeing on Hamel Street
Okay.
would be prohibited in Winchester. So I still have your number on my desk, so I'll make sure I call you when it's on the next agenda and give you enough
Yeah.
lead time to
I
make
have
sure
the
you come to the right
schedule
meeting.
for the next meeting,
Okay.
and it just, that's why I'm here, because I thought it would be discussed, but I did not know that it had already been.
We
up
moved
for
quick
discussion.
here, and
Yeah.
we moved quick.
Very
Yeah.
good.
So we'll get it done, but yeah, like I said, the board was very, very responsive to it. We want to fine tune it. We want to make it, better. But again, what your biggest concern was that commercial tractor trailer parking on Winchester Street. I can't tell you that, but the board was very warm to that, very receptive to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6, town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm still fine tuning how I want to go through the town manager report. So I've taken another stab at the way I want to dispense information to you. So here it goes. Going back to November 4th through, obviously, today, CCM came to visit 2 weeks ago to conduct their yearly review. This meeting was productive. We discussed several key issues. Their yearly convention is fastly approaching, which is the beginning of December. I'm looking forward to seeing the outcomes, their discussions and decisions. CCM, if you don't know, has been a valuable partner to this town and to many towns, and appreciate their ongoing support and guidance that they give us. Things come up throughout the year, and it's good to weigh in on CCM to help guide us and also to help legislate on behalf of especially our smaller towns. They seem to have a good voice down in Hartford when bills get proposed. Had an opportunity last week to go over to the Tort Museum. There was a major donor group that was in attendance to review a proposal that the museum is looking to do. If you don't know, they're looking to expand the museum. And one of the things that they want to do is they actually want to build a mock courtroom. And one of the items that the donor group would be able to fund this new addition over to the over into the Tort Museum. The donors came in. They were very impressed with all that the museum has to offer. The group that we put together, we met afterwards, and we felt we had a strong shot possibly getting these donors to unlock some of their funds to help the Tort Museum grow and expand that actual footprint that they have. And not only just as beautiful it is now, but also, just this town hall alone, we bring in the junior high kids, and they do a mock trial in all of our rooms. Imagine being able to do it in a real mock courtroom over there, and then expanding that and advertising it throughout the region and throughout the state, that, hey, if you're going through this, civics class in junior high, you can actually come up into our town and do the whole trial in this mock courtroom. I've gotten to know the Tort Museum a lot more since I first got here. What a tremendous asset that museum is, and all the wonderful things that they're looking to do and accomplish. So keeping our fingers crossed, we'll find out about the decision from this donor group in early 2025. Going back about some issues that popped up over the last few weeks that I just want to report on. First off, we do have a refuge issue coming out of Mira. For those who do or don't know, I actually am on the Mira Dissolution Authority appointed by the governor. But right now we're looking at potentially going to an RFP for RRDD1. Right now our refuge is being subsidized by Mira Dissolution Authority. If it wasn't being subsidized, the rate would be roughly $180 a ton. That's coming up for vote in the next couple of weeks, which could really skyrocket, our residents that are doing the subscription and also RRDD1. So we have a keen watch on what's going on with the Mira Dissolution Authority, and hoping that we don't have huge costs going into next year's budget, but I think we'll find some ways, possibly going to the private sector, seeing what else goes on. But simply put, smaller towns like ours, we can't afford $180 a ton, especially when the private market's somewhere in the $120, $130 a ton. So more on that as the mayor goes out for an RFP for our DD1, and we figure out what we're doing on the town side for the subscription base, and hopefully maybe able to drive some of the residential rates that they're paying lower as well. At last meeting that we held, we talked about the parking survey that was done. I was able to pull the parking survey. Unfortunately, it is a massive Excel sheet, which has a lot of information, but we're still working through and analyzing all of the information that came in through that survey that was done. So give me a little bit more time to figure out exactly what the survey has told us. I've never seen an Excel sheet that extended that far out in terms of, I think it was like CZ. I've never worked a spreadsheet that was that big before. Not saying it's impossible, but there is a ton of information. But I want a little bit more time of analyzing all of the data and giving you all a report that's easy to read as well. And the great thing is, I know one of our selectmen will tell you, if it's in Excel, you can manipulate the data and move it around. So we're going to be doing that, and we're going to get you something a little bit better. And we'll be able to talk about exactly what we want to do with parking. We obviously know there's a problem out there, so let's take it to what the facts are saying and go from there. The fire chief's position, I did have negotiations with the top candidate last week, but unfortunately that they declined the offer. At this meeting, we were potentially going to bring forward a potential candidate for this board to possibly appoint. So we are talking with another individual that interviewed very, very well, and we'll keep you posted. But it's crucial that we bring somebody forward so this board can ultimately appoint. But I thought it'd be best that at least we negotiate where we think this should be, the board would appoint, and then we know that the appointment wouldn't just fall flat and the individual would potentially turn down the offer that we give this new fire chief. So hopefully at our next meeting, we will have a fire chief before you, so you can all talk about that. I do have some disappointing news. We received word from FEMA about our reimbursement emergency relief COVID-19 fund. We submitted claims for $60,567.47, but we were only approved for $32,122.62, leaving us short $28,444.85. The items were rejected by FEMA, included election day expenses such as ballots, monthly charges for iPads, utility knives, top-load washers, and monthly invoices for Zoom. We're reviewing all of the information that was handed back from FEMA and looking for any potential appeal. What that ultimately means is the town may be on the hook for $28,000 that we did not account for in any budget. We would like to figure that out sooner rather than later, but unfortunately, we got to see what the appeal process is. I know once I'm done, we're going to probably have some questions on that, but I'll continue. Positive note, infrastructure projects are being completed. We'll have Mr. Rollins at our meeting in December to talk about all the completed work that has been done and looking forward to what's going to be done over the winter months, letting our residents know the work that's going to be done on the winter months and what projects are going to be starting once the warmer weather comes back to us. More positive news, the ARPA dollars to date are going well, with the biggest tranche of money going to the water and sewer. Happy to report that the bids went out and all bids look great, and we should be issuing notice to proceed after last week's water and sewer meeting where they voted on that. So at just under $1.7 million was given to water and sewer, and happy to report that we will put in just under $1.7 million in POs to unlock that money. So I'm very confident that on December 31st, we will be reporting to the federal government that we have allocated all of our ARPA dollars and we will not be turning back any money to the federal government. Selectman Perez and I met with Go Gear to learn more about their operations and the important work that they do. I think it's important, and I give a little shout out to Selectwoman Perez that we want to ensure the money that we're giving to transit, we're getting the most use of our dollars. We're going to sit down with the transit district in the not-so-distant future, looking for a meeting, discussing their budget for next year. Early looks is our number's going to go up in next year's budget by roughly $10,000. So if that's the number we're going with, we want to make sure that the routes that they're driving impact our residents the most. So more on that, but we do want to ensure that what we're paying to the transit district, we're getting the most use of our dollars out of it. The mayor and I met with Nova Farms just last week. If you remember, Nova Farms is looking to do a marijuana grow farm here in town. They're going before planning and zoning, which they hope would be their last meeting next Monday for a regulation change. Most importantly, if Nova Farms is permitted to open up a farm here in town, they have what they call an equity plan, part of the deal that they made with the state of Connecticut. But the equity plan is an additional investment into the community that they're looking to establish their, obviously, grow farm. Some of the ideas that were thrown out is putting that money towards Park and Rec Department for either A, a new building, summer scholarship funds for our underprivileged kids that maybe can't afford to go to those camps in the summer. Also looking to educate our children at the school system as well. It's completely up to Nova Farms, but they wanted to come in and speak with the mayor and I just to say that they are working on their equity plan. We don't really have a vote on it. It's something that they put together, they present to the town and say, thank you for, allowing us to come into your town, and we want to, provide these wonderful concepts to all of you. We had a COG meeting last week. Really, the biggest item that was being talked about at the COG meeting was the whole refuge item that we talked about earlier in the report. And again, nothing to report on with the whole tip fees and all of that, but that's going to come to a head sooner rather than later. We're close to finalizing the order in policy with the police department. We made very good progress, and also a very positive discussion about increasing the police presence on the lake next summer. I know that was an item that was discussed a lot this past summer, so we think we may have a plan to make sure that we have police presence up there more than ever, because this year I will admit that we weren't up there all that much. Staffing levels seem to be coming back to normal. We'll have more people out of the academy, and right now we are only slated to have one more additional officer be hired, which is great news. Of course, if we were to make a conditional offer, they would have to go through the academy if we weren't able to bring in a seasoned veteran. But our staffing levels are going to come back. Right now we do have 3 in the academy. The 3 that are in the academy are doing very, very well, and we look forward for them graduating soon and then starting their FTO. We do have 2 spots available for the class that begins in January. We only have 1 slot available in our budget. We are furiously working to find that 1 candidate so we can send somebody to the classes this January. So by the time we hit the summertime, we should have a full complement of officers, hopefully on the street, ready to go, and obviously we don't lose any along the way. Before the meeting started, you heard Anne Marie and I joke a little bit. The audit is well underway. We are going to make the deadline of hitting it before the end of the year. One of the items that came up was that the auditors believe we should have a purchasing guideline. I've started to put together the purchasing guideline. Anne Marie now has a copy of it. We're going to sit down and review it when she comes up for air. Hope to have the purchasing guideline before all of you at the next Board of Selectmen meeting, just so you can review it, different ideas that you may have. But this is all going back to GFOA, auditing standards, all of that. So we are going to look to incorporate a purchasing guideline in the town of Winchester, per what our auditors are saying. Just really quick, more exciting news. We have an upcoming meeting with the Ledgebrook owners, the shopping mall obviously down the street. They're looking to renovate their plaza. So they will be in, it's either this week or next week, but tentative is to add some loading docks. It looks like they may be looking to bring in possibly a new national tenant or a bigger tenant. Don't know much more than other than they're coming in next week to meet with all of us. And lastly, I'm sure it's probably on a lot of your minds, the holiday lights will be going up just after Thanksgiving. As you all know, this board voted that we would take it on the town's half, so we are looking to get the holiday lights up just after Thanksgiving, so they should be up momentarily. With that, I'll open it up for questions, and I have a feeling I know where one of them's going.
Questions from the board?
Yeah, the money from FEMA,
Yep.
we already expended it. Isn't it a reimbursement? So it's not like you have to find new money, it just gets in the accounting.
So, yes, we have expended, it is reimbursed. What we put in as a line item in the journal entry was we were gonna get back $60,000. If it, unfortunately, and it will be up to the board, because it will come before all of you, we will need to get $28,000 from potentially the general fund to offset what we did not get from FEMA. So, again, I want to try the appeals process. I want to look into it a little bit deeper. This just literally hit Thursday, Friday of last week, so I haven't had a whole ton of time. I did pull what was allowed, what wasn't allowed, but need more time and need to figure out the whole appeals process with FEMA, something I've never done before. But, yeah, that was a little shocking of $28,000 of funds that potentially we'll have to find, or, we have it, but it wasn't pleasant to get that letter in the mail. But Candy's right, it is, we've already expended the money.
How did that happen?
Because
How-
we
how-
had
how
to,
does that-
because it was during COVID and we were running COVID meetings without, not in person, and we did them, we did them over, Zoom out to the public and stuff. And, cause I would sit here with Bob Geiger and everybody else was at home on a Zoom meeting, and we Zoomed out to the public. So we were able to conduct business because we were doing it that way. So it was, so the Zoom, you mentioned Zoom charges and
Yes.
stuff, and that's when,
What other charges were on
and that's
there?
when that YouTube channel was set up by Mark too. The one we're on right now was set up then to do communication, so I'm surprised they turned it down.
Yeah, so you had, Zoom charges, a bunch of them, it almost fills the whole last page. 6917, which I would assume was monthlies. Where the most expense was iPad usage. A lot of the and we're gonna drill into this a little bit further. iPad usage, it was not the actual purchase of the iPad, but it was the data plans that were attached to these iPads. Roughly, if I counted real quick, 15 of them, 20 of them were $410. There's one charge for iPad usage of $3,896.60. So I want to find out what exactly, that's
The iPads were with the different commissions.
with the different commissions, yes.
Yeah, so like planning and zoning, I believe IWC, maybe ZBA, they all, at the time, they all got iPads for their meetings.
Yeah, we were giving out, I was on ZBA at the time, we were giving iPads to members who didn't have access to Zoom.
Mhm.
But, I can't believe that they would be using data plans as opposed to their Wi-Fi in their house, for example. Particularly-
You needed a data plan to be able to utilize those iPads.
Not if you were using them on a hard Wi-Fi in someone's house or someone's building. The data plans, if you,
And most of those expenditures were what, fiscal '22, fiscal
Yeah.
'21, so these are.
Yeah.
These
These are old.
These are old charges.
Yeah, these weren't anything, that, I say this was obviously thrown on my desk, we'll deal
but
with
there's
it.
a ton of money in data plans, and that's interesting.
Tons of money in
because
data plans, and
there's-
I can
there's-
scan
there's
this
so
and
many
and
places
send
in
it all
town
to
where
you.
if you were sitting there with a data plan, you wouldn't be able to use it. So, it's interesting that was a major part of the charges.
But, on the flip side, just to tell you some of the, charges that were approved, obviously you go back to the era of COVID, you had thermometers, infrared, no problem there. Wipes, sanitizing alcohol, no problem there. Powder-free gloves, no problem there.
What election things did they reject?
So you have primary absentee ballots, mailing house, primary absentee ballots, freight for absentee ballots, mailing house. That was roughly $800. November 3rd election, 8 by 5 by 11 absentee, it's $2,100. Keep going down, you have, where's some other, then you have 80K 2020 polls, August 11th, primary poll ballots, 1,300 Democrat, 1,300 Republicans, first con 80K codes, so that was $720. It seems at the time, the town was looking to possibly get reimbursed for ballots that they were sending out, is where my thought was behind that. When you see absentee ballots, you see primary ballots, that they were looking to push all of that off into FEMA's court. It was definitely a cost that the town would have to bear.
Well,
So
because there was more opportunity to vote by absentee.
there was no
And
excuse
because of
absentee.
COVID, people didn't, want to come into the polls and stuff, so they were mailing a lot of ballots out.
The top load washer, I did find that out. That did go to the firehouse. Still trying to unwind its portable top load washer. I was speaking with the mayor a little bit earlier today. He had thought it was PFAS. Unsure, but there's work to do. Tonight, why I just wanted to put it on your radar is this is the initial letter we got back from FEMA. I want to go through an appeals process. I want to fight, scratch, and crawl to try and get as much of the $28,000 as I can back into the town, or get reimbursed in the town, so I don't need to come before you for a transfer. But if you'd like, I could send the letter that FEMA sent and the whole list. At the end of the list, you'll see that we submitted $60,567, and then the letter states that we're getting $32,122.62 back from them. So,
Is it possible there's any issues with the way it was submitted? Is there inaccurate coding or something that would have rejected it?
looking at all of that, we are. I know at the time, FEMA did have a bunch of different programs that were being offered to communities. The issue, and we're gonna dig, the issue we have is all of that has now been closed out. The submittal, portions was long before, I had gotten here. FEMA's just, getting through all of it now. I don't know if we can go back, but again, $28,000 is just too much money to just say, okay. So, I'm gonna try and get us as much of that money back as I can.
Other questions from the board? Seeing none, moving on to item 7, Finance Director's Report.
So just a little follow-up on that grant. I wasn't here when that one was administered here, but I was in Plymouth at the time. When those grants came out, FEMA was kind of throwing money out and making up the rules as they went along. So, seriously, they were not giving you distinct guidelines on what was allowable and what was not allowable. So I think towns and cities were accumulating costs and assuming that FEMA was going to cover them, and then got into the reimbursement process, and then FEMA went, oh, no, wait a minute. No, we're not going to cover those things. So there was a lot of that was taking place. I think that FEMA sort of made it up as they went along. And then the reimbursement process, with anything with FEMA is ridiculously cumbersome, let's say. I know that Tom has put in for reimbursements to FEMA for certain items, and they have come back and rejected items because he didn't send them the back of the invoice, which was blank. So,
I'm sure we're not the only town that got caught.
oh, I'm sure. So, hold on a minute. I'm staring at a black screen.
Make sure you send it to FEMA.
Some laptops, but they approve those.
I'm not sure why this logged me out here, but for some reason, we're very slow here. You want me to sing?
Do you want to take my sheets?
No, because I have a summary sheet.
Oh, you have your summary
Yeah,
sheet.
I have a summary sheet, but I had it up on my screen and it logged me out.
Well, I can do some filler. Just so everyone's aware, our battery backup on our server
I'm back.
is beyond its use. So on Friday at 1 o'clock, we will be taking the servers down for all of an hour while they replace the battery backup. I know we close at noon on Thursdays, but
Friday.
Friday, just so you're aware, at 1 o'clock on Friday, system goes down, new battery backup, system goes up. How's that?
Good, excellent, thank you, we're back. These are the year-to-date results through October 31st of 2024. We're 33% into the fiscal year. Our current property tax revenue year-to-date is $14,857,474. That's 54.33% of our budget. That's compared to $15,096,312 in the prior year, which was 56.79%. Past due tax collections, $148,228, 24.54% of our budget. That is in comparison to $145,384 last year, same period, 48.46%. Total revenues year-to-date, $17,993,518, which is 44.09% of budget. That's in comparison to $19,193,240 in the same period last year, which was 48.3% of the budget. Total expenditures year-to-date with encumbrances, $14,404,516. That's 35.3%. That's compared to $15,178,040, 38.19% for last year. Our municipal aid received in the month of October, we received our first ECS installment of $1,955,998. As the town manager mentioned, $32,123 for the FEMA COVID-19 grant reimbursement, and a very small piece for an EMPG grant reimbursement of $4,182. I'm going to skip cash flow for this month because we've been 100% focused on the audit, so Cindy has not prepared cash flow as of the end of October. So our October capital expenditures, we had a decent list of them. We paid $53,653 for the new Tahoe for the police department, $43,343 for the current year plow truck lease payment, $89,794 in annual road maintenance costs. We paid for the delivery of the tandem plow truck that was voted to purchase outright in the last fiscal year. That was $324,858. We spent $15,023 towards the digital radio upgrade project. We had two communities challenge payments, one for $16,000 for Main Street signage and $4,950 towards the Bridge Street intersection work. $7,000 went to Deep Trails grant for the Mad River. We spent $48,000 on our guide rail replacement program. The next few are all part of the bond project. $286,304 towards Elm Street, $289,258 on the Hubbard Street project, and $47,669 on Old Colebrook Road. And the last expenditure for capitals was $92,250 for an additional progress payment towards the Pearson boiler replacement project. And as the town manager mentioned, we are thoroughly engrossed in the audit process. Our auditors were out last week. We had some very significant progress in our audit work, and we continue to move towards, hopefully issuance by December 31st. Questions?
Any board member? Candy?
Yes.
Yeah, on the capital, you have the amended budget, and I'm assuming that's this current year's budget, but some of these capital items must be running on other grant reimbursements and other years. Is that true?
Say that again.
In your column amended budget.
Yeah, those do not, that only includes current year items.
so-
So you don't have, I don't have the full summary of all the years right now.
So is there a way to, where there's the blank spots where the money's not in this current year, but?
Yes,
coming-
so I have that schedule, but I don't have that completely updated. I've been working with Jim Rollins to really try to, we're really trying to clean that up. We're looking at, because there are such a tremendous amount of capital projects that some of those projects are completed. What I'm trying to do is parse out all the completed projects, drop those to the bottom of the schedule, so I'm only giving you what the current projects are, kind of looking to see if there's budget money that is left over that could potentially, going forward, be reallocated for the capitals. But we are working on that, and that schedule is a bear. So I've done it through '24, but there are still a few open items, and I've kind of put that off, finished the '24 so that I could do the audit work, and then I'm gonna pick that back up. But I do have that schedule in order, with the intention of getting that to you as soon as I can get you something that's understandable.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on to item number 8, correspondence. Does anyone from the board have anything? Item 9, boards and commissions.
Okay, so, Bill's not here, but, we have 3 people up for reappointment, all on the same board, Board of Assessment Appeals. So we can start with that. I make a motion that we reappoint Joel Stewart to the Board of Assessment Appeals, term to end 10/2027.
Second.
Thank you, Troy. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Secondly, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Ryan Horvey, Board of Assessment Appeals, term to end 10/2027.
Second.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Paul. Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
And thirdly, but not lastly, Lynn Kessler, Board of Assessment Appeals, term to end 10/2027.
Second.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Paul. Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
And then, under consideration, we have a bunch of names here that we are gonna vet and bring back to you at next meeting.
Troy, how many positions with P and Z do we have open?
We have 1 alternate at this time.
So we have 4 applicants for 1 position?
Correct.
Can I, what I did, Troy, I want to give this to you, is we had a meeting, as you all know, we said we were going to meet. And during that meeting, we discussed, or I discussed, how we keep our data in terms of keeping the data on boards and commissions. I had suggested that it go into one spreadsheet. Well, you'd have 2 spreadsheets, one to keep track of the commission, but if it was maneuverable into one spreadsheet, you could sort by the expiration date, so you didn't lose track of somebody. And the other thing you could do is you can sort it by name. And one of the things I would suggest to the board, and I'll pass this over to Troy, I just did a few of the commissions. I didn't put all the data into one place. Hopefully that's getting done. But if you sort by it, you will find one of the things I think we want on our boards and commissions, or at least we always did, was to have people from different places in town, or different people from different, just that were interested on their own, or, within groups. We know that we have the state statutes that monitor minority representation and majority at 60%. So I'll just pass this over to Troy. What this does is it sorts by name, and you can see that there are some people that serve on multiple commissions. There are people that are on multiple, and that may come into play for you for the consideration steps for people in terms of your decision-making. How many should boards be diverse, or should some people be on multiple ones? And it's hard to know that if you have every commission separate, but when you run the spreadsheet, you can see it. So I pass that over to you.
And the other thing is, Troy, unfortunately, on the Conservation Commission, they've already reached their max for one party, because it's a 7-member board. And this person that wants to come on is already a member, and that's really tough, because this is my commission, the liaison, and she's very excited to come on, but there's not really a slot. They're maxed out for that
Yeah, that's why we have
particular
to vet.
party.
Yeah, we'll have to vet it. That's all I have there, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, so
Yes, sir.
we did meet, and I appreciate everybody that was on the boards and commission group came in. You can see that we have our marching orders. We're gonna do a better job on the town hall side of things, getting you all the information that you need. The only thing that we request back is, when you vetted these particular individuals, Troy, we hear from you, that you're ready to put them, and we'll go, but I think it's important that we follow through on all of this, because you get the most excitement from these volunteers immediately, and we want to get them on these boards and commissions as soon as we possibly can. So we'll work, hard to make sure that you get all the or you all get the information that you need. Just communicate back to us, and we'll make sure it's on the agenda. The boards and commissions will appear on every agenda. We did decide that. I think it was either at the meeting or after the meeting, and Glenn, Terry, and I met. So I know there was talk that we would do it once a month. We're gonna put it on every agenda, every 2 weeks, or the first and third Mondays. You'll see boards and commissions on it. And if simply there's nothing to discuss, we'll say there's no action to be needed on any boards and commissions. So you'll see that on every agenda moving forward. And hopefully, we can increase the volunteerism and get some of these other boards that still have some seats that are open filled.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Moving on to item 10, unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. Item 11, new business. 24-52, proposed line item transfer by the Director of Finance. Paul.
You said Director of Finance, but I'll take it anyways.
From the Director of Finance.
Yeah, from the Director. So the first one before you is 24-52. It's $1,100 for maintenance of a senior bus. We're taking it from the tires line and putting it into the maintenance of vehicle line. It was repairs, as you see the supplemental information that was provided, and the invoicing that came with it as well. The bus was no throttle, lack of power, so we had to bring it in the shop. But happy to report that that bus is now back on the road again. So we are looking for a transfer of $1,100 because that line item was overrun.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the line item transfer of $1,100 from 1-813-846-0000 tires to 1-813-821-0000 maintenance of vehicles in the amount of $1,100.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Bill. Any other discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Andy?
Oh, I'm sorry, favor.
Favor? Unanimous?
And secondly, 24-53, there was an additional Highland Lake water sampling that was done up there in the amount of $1,225. We are taking it from the contracted service line. Again, this water sampling has already been performed, and we just need to up that line up. And happy to report that if you approve 24-53, this will be the last transfer of the 24 fiscal year budget.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the following line item appropriation transfer of $1,225 from Parks Contracted Services, account 1-813-830-0000 to maintenance of lakes, ponds, Highland water sampling, 1-126-851-0007 in the amount of $1,225.
I'll second that one. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Bill. Any discussion? Is this related to the algae bloom?
No.
No.
That's last year's.
All in favor? Unanimous? I'm sorry? Any changes coming?
No, I mean, you can state the reason for executive session, so you want me to talk, or you want me to talk?
Go
So, the executive session, is discuss potential, strategy to list the town-owned properties in executive session. That is a particular reason to go into executive session, because you are talking strategy and potentially price of what you would list it at. This was an item that, I believe 2 selectmen had brought up at last meeting, with the board, that they wanted to go into an executive, session to discuss town-owned properties and potential strategy of prices that we would list these town-owned properties at.
Can I have a motion to go into executive session, taking with us the town manager and
And our
town appointed realtor, David Satarana?
Make the motion.
Second.
Emil, all in favor? Opposed? 4-2. At 7:55. Blue room free.
Blue room is free, yes.
City gets. Yes. Oh, no. You're hobbled. ready for a marathon yet, but.
So Glenn, I have to re-up to do that every 2 years?
Yes.
To do the,
I'll be reading the
marriage thing?
You were put in because there were vacancies in last term. Now you go,
Oh, so there is a term limit?
there is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's 4 years.
Okay.
On the second.
Yeah, every
I didn't know that.
presidential, yep.
That's per state statute.
Okay.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Is it only 8:30?
We've returned from executive session at 8:31 PM.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the following motion. That the following properties get moved, that we send the following properties to the Planning and Zoning Commission for input regarding their sale that are currently town-owned. They would be 19 Hill Street, 124 Rockwell Street, 48 Bridge Street, 99 Hubbard Street, 269 Walnut Street, 109 Marshall Street, 104 Norfolk Road, and 50-52 Cottage Street.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Troy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous? Moving on to item number 14, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and may speak once. Does anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, moving on to item 15, selectmen's comments and reports. Anyone have anything?
I'll go really quick, really fast. The water tanks up on Wallens Hill and Crystal Lake should actually be finished and up and operational by the end of this year, possibly into January, because they still have to disinfect and clean them out. They have to pass tests through the DPH. And the other thing is just a reminder, and if everybody that's listening and that's in this room can remember, there's still a high fire warning danger. I was at that fire in Colebrook. That was just a tree hitting a branch, and it lit 3 different places just from the wind. And there's people that are still actually lighting fires outside. Some towns, not necessarily this one, are actually banning people from even running a wood stove in case it gets cold, and not even outside grills, like your grill in the summertime. Not this one, but some towns in the state are. There still is close to 100 active fires that are being monitored through the state. So please, everyone, no fires. Even if it gets cold, that fire danger's still gonna be there. We need at least 1.5 inches to 2 inches of rain to get deep in. Because I saw, like I said, this past Saturday, 3 inches deep and the ground was still on fire. So just a reminder for everyone.
Other selectmen? Just on behalf of the town of Winchester and the Board of Selectmen, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And also, if any members of the Board of Selectmen are interested, the Salvation Bell Ringing Campaign will be taking effect beginning after Thanksgiving. Anyone can reach out to me if they're interested in taking a 2-hour slot to ring the bell for the Salvation Army. With that,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor? Unanimous?
Do I have to wear my Santa suit if I do that?
You can do whatever you want.
We prefer you in your Santa suit, actually.